Thanks for joining us for CBN's On the Home Front, where we highlight news for and about the men and women of America's military. I'm Mark Martin. The Trump administration is getting blasted on all sides for plans to divert billions of Defense Department dollars to build the border wall. National security correspondent Eric Phillips joins us now with that story. Eric.
Well, Mark, the money was supposed to be used for fighter jets and other equipment for our armed services.
Let's say this much: border security is national security, and national security is our mission. I think many NATO allies understand that as well.
Secretary of Defense Mark Esper insists it makes perfect sense to use $3.8 billion of Defense Department money to help build the wall along the southern border, a sentiment heard during the president's State of the Union.
And as the wall rapidly goes up, drug seizures rise, and the border crossings are going down and going down very rapidly.
The already controversial issue becomes even more so because the money being diverted for the wall was to be used for other projects, like the purchase of the Navy V-22 Osprey aircraft and parts for an Air Force drone and F-35 planes. Lawmakers on both sides are crying foul. House Armed Services Committee Chair Adam Smith, a Democrat, condemned the move, saying today's reprogramming request confirms once again that the president is obsessed with fulfilling a campaign promise at the expense of our national security. This administration has already stolen billions from the DOD for the president's vanity wall, and today they are doubling down. The ranking member of that same committee, a Republican, criticized it as well, saying Congress determines how defense dollars are spent, and once those choices have been made, the Department of Defense cannot change them in pursuit of their own priorities without the approval of Congress. But Esper says the move was wholly appropriate.
The action we took is legal under the law. I think it should be no surprise, and I'll just leave it at that for now.
As a result of our unprecedented efforts, illegal crossings are down 75% since May, dropping 8 straight months in a row.
Trump declared a national emergency along the border a year ago to prompt funding of the wall, and there are no signs of slowing down. He says he wants over 500 miles of that wall to be completed by early 2021. So far, about 130 miles have been completed, Mark.
Eric, what are you hearing from the various branches of the military about this move to finish the wall with defense funds? Do they agree with Secretary Esper?
We've not really heard much rumblings one way or the other. I would say that when Mark Esper speaks, that the military tends to listen, that the heads of the branches of military tend to fall in line behind what he thinks is good for the department itself. I would say that as well, they will be able to buy into the fact that, as Secretary Esper said, border security is security for our country. The main focus of our military as it stands is securing our country both here at home and abroad, making sure that our assets both here at home on American soil and elsewhere are protected and secure. So to that end, they're able to ideologically buy into this idea of the money going to the wall. But bear in mind, there is the aspect of military readiness that can never be underestimated. That is having new equipment that works, having updated equipment like the fighter jets, making sure that what we have is properly repaired and in order. All of that takes time, which is why the Department of Defense budget is so massive. But in terms of this move to shuffle some of that money away from projects that may be very well needed to the border wall, we've not heard much dissent from the branches of military.
Eric, is this a done deal, or does Congress have the final say?
Well, at this point, the secretary has spoken. He's given his intent to Congress to do this. I suppose Congress at this point could fight him on it. They've already come out against, as you just heard in that story, where you've got bipartisan support for blasting this decision on the part of the Trump administration to divert this money in this way. And the Republican in our story was basically saying it's not so much that we disagree with you in theory or in principle, but the fact of the matter is there is a process this is supposed to go through. And once the Congress says where this money is supposed to go, that's where it's supposed to go unless Congress changes it. Well, that didn't happen in this case. Secretary Esper saying, you know what, we have the ability to make the shuffle as we see fit. So at this point, we've not heard that Congress is going to then circle back and override what the Trump administration is doing, but certainly we're staying tuned.
All right, Eric Phillips, our national security correspondent, joining us from the CBN News Washington Bureau. Thanks for your report, Eric.
You're welcome.
In other news, a movie about a former Special Forces soldier is set to air in theaters for 2 nights only. It's called Free Burma Rangers, and it's the story of Dave Eubank and his family and God's call on their lives to be missionaries in some of the most desperate, war-torn parts of the world. We spoke with him about his work and the movie, but first, let's take a look at part of the trailer.
No other plan. Just go. Go to the sound of the guns, go to the sound of need, and trust God to show you how you can be useful.
David Eubank, a former Special Forces captain, has gone on to found a relief group called the Free Burma Rangers.
Helping those fleeing the front lines of war.
His wife and 3 children go with him into the conflict areas.
As we did these relief missions, more and more ethnic people began to join us.
I want to go and help my people as I can.
Missionary soldier David Eubanks joins us now by Skype on the ground in Syria. Welcome, David.
Thank you very much.
That's a powerful trailer. I'm sure people can't wait to see more of your story. Tell us how God led you to become a missionary soldier, and what exactly is your mission?
Well, I grew up as a missionary kid. My mother and father are now 60 years missionaries in Thailand. My dad's 90, my mom's 87, Alan and Joan Eubank, still sharing the love of Jesus. And when I was 5 years old, growing up in Thailand, I just looked up in the sky one day and I thought, one day I'll be a missionary, a soldier, and one day I'll be a missionary. That thought just came to me. And later on, I was in Corps of Cadets at Texas A&M. I was commissioned as an infantry officer, and then Rangers and Special Forces. And in the beginning of that, I offered it back to God, and I said, I only want to do this, Lord, if you want me to. Do you really want me to do it? I just felt God say, this is to prepare you for future service. And about the 10-year mark, when I was in Special Forces, I felt the call to get out. Actually, when I asked God, it was like, both are good. Stay in the Army and put me first, get out and put me first. They're both good. God's kingdom needs everybody. And I thought, well, I love the Army. I don't like the dumb part, but I like the parachuting and all the cool stuff and the great people and the mission. But I don't know what the other thing's like. And so I spent a year praying about that my last year in the Army, and then got out and went to Fuller Seminary. And my first semester there, I was invited by the Wa tribe of Burma, 70 years of civil war now. One of the delegates came and met my parents and said, please send your son to help us. We're warrior people, but we need Jesus, and he's a warrior. Send him. And that's how we got involved in Burma in 1993.
What are things like there now? It's not in the headlines as much these days.
Right. So there's been different transitions of government, but still the military controls that country, and the war goes on. There are ceasefires in some areas, such as parts of Karen State, Chen State, but there's all-out war in other areas. Arakan State, Kachin State in the north, Shan State. Over 1 million Rohingya have been driven from Burma into Bangladesh. There's a Muslim minority. And even in ceasefire areas such as Karen State, where I just was last month on a mission, there's fighting, even though there's a ceasefire. So there really hasn't been a lot of change.
Tell us about your work now in places like Iraq and Syria, where you're working right now.
Well, our main work is in Burma. We have 95-person relief teams in the different conflict areas, all on foot. And since 2015, we've been in Iraq, and since 2016 in Syria as well. And of course, very different environment, desert. We drive vehicles. You don't have to climb up and down mountains, which I miss. And here, it's been pretty much constant war. First in Kurdistan, up with the Yazidis on Sinjar Mountain, with ISIS attacking around us. And then in the battle to liberate Mosul, we were part of that. I lost my very close friend and interpreter, a Yazidi, right next to me, killed next to me. Many of my guys were wounded. I was wounded 4 times. And I saw a lot of death and destruction there. And then in Syria, first we were involved in helping displaced people and giving medical care to not only the Syrian Democratic Forces, but even to ISIS prisoners or kids and women who gave up. In the last Battle of Baghouz, the last stronghold of ISIS, which was early 2019, we were there. We fed 25,000 ISIS family members as they came out surrendering, treated 4,000, able to share the love of Jesus. That was wonderful to be with our enemies and give them something new. Then, though, terrible thing happened, and that's when the United States broke a promise and pulled our troops back from the Turkish border here with northeast Syria, and instantly the Turks invaded. At midnight on 9 October, the U.S. pulled out. By 4 in the afternoon, Turkish tanks crossed the border. Artillery, shelling. Later on in November, we were there. We got here as fast as we could the first week, and we were up on the Turkish border evacuating civilians and wounded and treating people and getting shot at every day. 3 of my team were wounded. One of my cameramen from Burma, Zhao Sang, who helped raise my kids, he was killed right next to me by the Turkish forces. So that was horrible. The Turks are our enemies. I don't want to be our enemies. This is not ISIS. Why are they doing this? Why are they supporting jihadists? I think that was very brutal. Why did our country abandon the Kurds and the Christians here? And behind me is a picture of a Christian man who was killed by the Christian militia here. They said, we're not soldiers. We're teachers. We're doctors. We're pastors. We didn't want to be soldiers, but when the world abandoned us, we had to fight for our own place. Here in Tel Tamer, on the Khabur River Valley, a place of historical Christianity. And ISIS first drove them out, and then they came back, and then the Turks have driven them out. So on the other side of the wall is a picture of many other young Christian men, and old ones too, like me, who died here. So this is the environment we're in. We have ethnic cleansing and an invasion from the Turks and the Free Syrian Army, their proxies. They've driven people out, 200,000 displaced. We're feeding people today twice. We're doing another one tomorrow, treating the wounded here. And meanwhile, in Idlib, which is further west, it's an all-out war, 800,000 people displaced. Last week, we were up helping people who had fled Idlib, feeding them and giving them Bibles, praying with them and saying, Jesus to help you, he's real.
Coming up, we'll be back with more of our interview with Dave Eubank and hear more about his movie, Free Burma Rangers. Stay with us.
If you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time, keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
You know, I think as a father, it's my job, to lead, just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Orphans Promise is committed to loving and serving at-risk children, to helping keep families together, and to creating opportunities for strong and sustainable communities around the world. We're working in over 60 countries around the world, and with your help, we can do even more. There's an old African proverb I love that says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. At Orphans Promise, we want to run far so we can touch the lives of as many orphaned and vulnerable children as possible. But we don't want to go alone. We're out to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time. Will you join us?
Welcome back to On the Home Front. We continue our conversation with former Special Soldiers, Special Forces Captain Dave Eubank, including information about the movie focusing on the work of the Free Burma Rangers. Tell us about the movie and how it came about. And I understand it already received film festival awards and critical acclaim.
That's a gift from God and other people who made it, Chris and Dave and Brent and others, and our cameramen. We have over 90 cameramen and women running around the jungle and over the desert filming. It's part of the mission, get the news out, give dignity to people who are suffering, let a light shine. And so it started to come up with me about 2008. We should tell this story so people could know it. But it was a lot of prayer and thinking about it. In about 2012, I remember we just graduated new relief teams in Burma. A friend of mine was visiting in the jungle. You have to walk a few days to get to us, Chris Sinclair. And I said, I just feel I want to make a movie as a thanks to God. God, thank you. It's like one of the blind people that Jesus healed comes back and says, thank you. I felt like that guy. I want to say thank you. And I want to thank people who support us. And I want the world to see what cool, beautiful people the ethnic people of Burma are. I wanted to tell those stories. I said, Chris, I'm going to tell them. And I'll do a horrible job. I'm not a filmmaker, but I feel that responsibility welling up in my heart. And he said, Dave, I'll do it. I'm a filmmaker, or beginning one anyways. I said, thank God. And we prayed about it, and that's when it started. And he traveled with us sometimes in America. He went climbing with us. He was in the plane when we were jumping out of it. He was climbing Mount Rainier, the Grand Tetons. He was in the rodeos with my kids, watching them and filming them. And then later on, here comes Iraq, which when we first started the movie, there was no Iraq, there was no Syria, there was no ISIS. And suddenly there was, and we were invited to come and help. And so he took the footage that we made and combined it with what he did, and that's the movie we have. And we hope it's glorifying to God and points people to Jesus.
Definitely. Well, it's in theaters on the 24th and 25th of February. We want to encourage folks to see it. But if they can't catch it on those 2 days, how can they see it, David?
Well, after it's been done and out, there will be DVDs available. There'll be screenings available. There'll be, I think the distributors, Lifeway is trying to work on deals with Netflix or Hulu. I don't actually know any of that. But the idea is, don't worry, if you want to see it, you'll see it, because we want it to go out widest. The purpose is to bear witness to what God has done, to bear witness to people created in his image. And so they and we want it to go widest. So if you miss this one, don't miss it. Cooler on the big screen. But if you do, there'll be other ways to see it. And we'll let you know when that happens.
Is there a website that people can go to check out the film or to check out information about it?
Yes. One is FBR Movie, and that's directly about the movie. Or you can go to our website, www.freeburmarangers.org, and you will find how to get to the movie. You can go to Daydocs Films and you can get to the movie. So FBR Movie or freeburmarangers.org, those first two, or Daydocs.
All right. Well, before we go, what would you say would be God's greatest message that he's been speaking to you these past 20 years, and he wants you to communicate with fellow believers?
That God loves us so much, everyone, even our enemies, even people who hurt God, hurt people. He loves us. He forgives us. Every day is a new day. Give yourself wholly to the Lord and hold nothing back. Put everything on his altar and don't settle for anything. Don't live in the swamp of sin to your right. Don't live in the swamp of do good or Christian things you think you ought to do, but God didn't ask you to do. Stay on that straight and fast highway where God says, this is what you're made to do. Go for it. There's no caution sign. There's no be careful. There's no be safe. It's go. And we only know that when we ask God forgiveness for our sins and try to stay out of them. And we keep falling in. I do all the time. Okay, I'm terrible. Lord, forgive me. But Satan, I don't want none of you. And I don't need to do those other things that people tell me how to do, but God didn't tell me. There's so many good things to do in the world. What are the things I need to do? And so to ask yourself, what am I made for? And then go for it. Because you don't need a lot of courage, because God is real. He's going to carry you. He's going to open those doors.
Awesome. David Eubanks with Free Burma Rangers. We thank God for your work, and we pray his blessings over you and your family as you show the love of Christ in some of the most difficult places in the world. Thanks again for your time today, sir.
Thank you, CBN, for shining the light of Jesus everywhere, educating and inspiring us. I love you all.
Great man there. We'll go to our website, cbnnews.com, for more information and a link to Free Burma Rangers, the movie and the ministry. Up next, we'll take you flying with the largest military air show in the Pacific. It's a sight you won't want to miss.
When I came to Regent University, it's like the world opened up. I felt like I needed to advance my career and go back to school. Regent was a perfect fit for me. The Regent professors are world class. You are equipped. The focus of the faculty is on each individual student, whether it's online or in person. You become a part of Regent's family. You carry with you not just the content and the knowledge, but the confidence to understand that we can be significant in the world.
Regent University. Follow your path.
Nigerian Christians
in Iran are routinely arrested.
Happily, Christians continue to suffer.
In times of trial and affliction, you need to know the truth.
One of the fastest growing Christian populations in the world.
Join Wendy Griffith and George Thomas for Christian World News.
Young people are the ones who are open to the gospel.
Powerful stories of suffering and hope that affect all Christians. Watch Christian World News, Saturday at 5 p.m. Get Protect Your Sleep and discover how to improve the quality of your life. A free DVD or booklet from the Christian Broadcasting Network.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
5 leading experts help remove the obstacles between you and restorative sleep.
When you don't get a restful night's sleep, you wake up with an accumulation of stress.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free DVD or booklet today.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
You'll discover how food affects your sleep, how to put insomnia to rest, explore effective remedies for sleep apnea, and much more in Protect Your Sleep. Wake up to your best life and get Protect Your Sleep today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free DVD or booklet.
You're watching On the Home Front. The sound of freedom in the form of military jets can be heard around the world. In this case, all the way to Singapore for an air show by U.S. Air Force, Marine, and Navy pilots as part of a 50-year strong relationship between the two nations.
United States Air Force, we welcome you to Singapore 2020.
This year, the Singapore Air Show gave us the opportunity to bring the F-35B out here, which is especially exciting. It's been a lot of work to get all the pieces and parts lined up for the air show. The fact that the United States is here and putting it forth as much effort across the Air Force, the Navy, and the Marine Corps is really a testament, I think, to how strong our partnership is with Singapore.
I think it's a unique experience for us as a Loadmaster to get and just talk to the general public about our plane, because who doesn't love to nerd out about what they work on? The excitement people have and how interested they are in the capabilities of your aircrafts and when they learn what it can do, and just the unique experience they get by interacting with us face to face, learning about the aircraft is really cool.
Having our 5th Jet fleet out here alongside their airmen and being able to crosstalk with them, as well as even our security and our maintenance teams get to work alongside each other, is just a perfect opportunity for us to see into the future of how much further our relationship will continue to go.
Gotta love the air shows. Well, don't go anywhere. We'll be back after the break with One Woman in Uniform's Why I Serve story.
Too often, we carry baggage from our past. You know what it's like. It affects everything and everyone in our lives. It's always there, weighing us down and keeping us from achieving true happiness. But do you know God never meant for us to be trapped in the past? You can be free of your baggage. Learn how God's forgiveness leads to changed lives and new beginnings. Call the 700 Club.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5 Wednesday night at 9:30.
Tikkun Olam.
This is our nature as a country.
To make the world a better place.
Literally, we felt the earth shaking.
The Christian Broadcasting Network presents To Life, how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
This film needs to be seen by everyone.
I was in tears. Now you can own the inspiring documentary To Life on DVD.
There is blood on our hands if we know and we walk away.
I'm so grateful that this film was made.
To Life can be yours for a gift of $10 or more. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
We know that every minute counts to save life.
It'll bless Israel, but it'll also bless all the friends of Israel.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are making the world a better place. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com to get your copy today.
CBN honors the men and women in our military with an initiative called Helping the Home Front. It partners with churches across the country to meet the needs of their military families, from repairing homes to providing financial support to wiping out medical bills for wounded veterans. Visit helpingthehomefront.org to learn more. A wonderful organization. We conclude with a Why I Serve segment with the Navy's GM1 Miranda Collier as we celebrate African American women in the military this Black History Month. Here's her story.
First name Miranda, M-I-R-A-N-D-A. Last name Collier, C-O-L-L-I-E-R. At the time, my mom and my sister were both in college, so when I was coming up on graduating from high school, I didn't want to further burden my mom and have her try to put me through school as well. So I decided to join the Navy. That way I could travel, which I liked, and I could also get an education. I would say that they should look at it as an option, because even if they only do 4 years, the Navy matures people very fast, faster than it would if you just went to college. So I look at it as like it would be a stepping stone, further them outside of the Navy if they only wanted to do 4 years. But it's a good option that people should consider, more students should consider.
That's all for today. Hope you'll join us next time. Have a great day.